Hello and welcome back to the Premier Injuries channel. Today we're actually responding to one of your questions where somebody asked, what's so special about Dr. Cugat that other doctors can't do? As you can see on screen there, we got this question from Reddit. And as always, just before we start the analysis, you can send in any questions. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you're up to date if we do answer one of your questions, but you can always message us below. Tweet Ben on Twitter. You can tweet me as well. And we're always happy to try and do our best to either give you a bit of data, a bit of insight, or even make one of these videos because we thought this question was so awesome. So yeah, Ben, just quickly, can you give maybe a short history into who Dr. Cugat is?
Yeah, so Dr. Cugat, undoubtedly a leader in his field, but any better than any other of the elite practitioners throughout the world. You know, that's very subjective and who's to say. However, a little bit of background, as I say. So Dr. Ramon Cugat actually has an affiliation with the club Barcelona. He played there for several years. Before the age of 21, he sort of realized that maybe he wasn't going to make that transition from youth team and academy, to the senior team. And he decided to take up medicine. Obviously, hugely successful. And that relationship is where that was spawned with Pep Guardiola. Now, Dr. Ramon Cugat's actually attributed to prolonging Pep's career when he picked up quite a nasty ankle injury out in Qatar when he was playing out in the Middle East. Now, at the time, Dr. Ramon Cugat was trying out new techniques and he coined the term growth factors in terms of blood spinning. And he used that and he used it on Pep for the first time for his ankle injury. And he attributes that as a quicker return to play. So that relationship was formed a long time ago. That was successful. And through there, that relationship has grown. And obviously he's got Pep's back and he's somebody that Pep trusts implicitly.
I mean, we've mentioned Pep a lot there, and it's quite interesting because I think you've alluded to it at the start as well. A lot of people call him, one of the best doctors in sport or just in football. But why does Pep like him so much? Is this more of a personal kind of relationship? Because as you said there, you can't really objectively evaluate one doctor against the next, can you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you touch, the Messi of Medicine, I believe one term has been coined for Dr. Ramon Cugat. And yeah, look, this is purely about a trust and an open lines of communication here. Like I say, he's somebody that Pep can effectively select these players. If they pick up an injury, they can send them straight across. And he knows that they're in safe and good hands. Again, no doubt that he's a leader within his field. And Pep's able to keep those lines of communications, pick up the phone, progress, understand where they are, and have open and frank conversations about when a player might potentially return to play and the next steps and course of treatment.
And I don't want to devalue his work because obviously he's done stellar stuff. But again, is this kind of recognition through association? It's a phrase that you've used before with other kind of doctors and things, but is his reputation kind of enhanced by the fact that he's worked with Messi, he's worked with Barcelona, he's worked with Guardiola, and there's other doctors doing very good work themselves, but they just don't get that level of recognition and this amazing kind of mythical name attached to them?
It certainly doesn't help when you're working with some of the world's best, the most world's elite athletes, to be associated in terms of from a reputational or credible standpoint. It doesn't really get any better than that. And of course, now the Premier League in the eye, of everyone across the world, broadcasters are focused heavily on Manchester City in terms of what they do. So, every player, every action is scrutinized heavily, and we often see the likes of, those Manchester City's players flying off to Barcelona to receive treatment from Dr. Ramon Cugat. But, there are other surgeons throughout the world. We've spoke to Dr. Matthew Provencher of the world-renowned Stedman Clinic. He was the go-to guy back in the day for ACL reconstructive surgery. But we also heard in recent times from Rafa Benitez and how he prefers to send his players off to Italy to meet with Professor Mariani, Francesco Totti, Kevin Strootman, Antonio Rudiger. And, in terms of return to play, his techniques and his procedures often, undercut everybody else is in terms of those getting those players back in terms of days and months, ahead of everybody else in and around 120 to 140 days.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like some sort of derby grudge match between the two of them, but what is the difference then between Moriani and Cugat? As you said there, Moriani has a higher kind of focus on return to play times being as short as possible, whereas Cugat, does he have maybe another feather in his cap that he has better kind of longevity with these players, or is that not correct to say either?
Yeah, look, I mean, when there's procedures of this, and we spoke about this before with regards to that ligamentization process, that's something that will happen over 12 to 18 to 24 months. So anytime that you're looking to chop off that, there's a risk. There's a risk of recurrence. There's a risk of re-injury. And we've seen at Newcastle with Professor Moriani, when he took Florian Lejeune, he had a re-injury within 5 months following a return to play within 120 days. So like I say, all of the considerations need to be put out on the table and thought about seriously with regards to, so it's not all about that return to play. It's about keeping players fit, available and healthy, not just for the rest of that season, but for the remainder of the career. And like I say, on occasions, you are taking a little bit of risk. Anything past that 9-month period and the chances of re-injury or recurrence significantly reduced by around about 50% month on month.
And just to finish up, we're going to revisit something that you've already mentioned a little bit, but we're not ones to shy away from controversy. It's the Leroy Sané situation. As you said, in 2019, he chose not to go to Guardiola's preferred surgeon. So kind of maybe evaluating this situation, is that usual, or do you think that maybe indicated that this was either him trying to, work his situation because he wanted to move away from the club, or did that facilitate his move away from the club? Maybe Pep felt that he didn't have full autonomy over his players, which is one of almost the cornerstones of his ideology.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that, Jason. It's a chicken and the egg scenario. A little bit of background. Leroy Sané ruptured his ACL in a Community Cup game ahead of the 2019-20 season. Of course, originally, before COVID and the pandemic and the shutdown, there was a European Championships scheduled for 2020. Now, with regards to Leroy Sané and that reconstructive surgery, you mentioned it, he went against the wishes of Pep Guardiola. He decided not to see Dr. Ramon Cugat, and he actually went to Austria to meet with Dr. Christian Fink. Now, 2 reasons as to why this may have happened. First and foremost, Dr. Christian Fink has worked extensively with the German national team and also Bayern Munich. So those lines of communication that we touched upon before were open, whether the national team and, with regards to that European Championships, could speak to Dr. Fink, assess his progress, assess the risk, and make informed decisions on his availability. Secondly, now, ahead of that proposed move at the time, or certainly around speculation of whether Sané would move to Bayern Munich, the club would be able to assess their liability in terms of their investment or possible risk associated with Leroy Sané. Would they have that same level of access and communication with Dr. Ramon Cugat? Maybe not. What you want to do, you're looking to mitigate that risk and make that process as seamless as possible. And if you already have those lines of communication in place, and they're trusted by the national team and what turned out to be Leroy Sané's future club, then, you're going to go with that option.
Really interesting situation of maybe one of the controversial periods of Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. But as always, I want to remind people, do subscribe to the channel. As you've seen today, we've answered some listeners' question. We love to do this. We love to send you data or just engage with you. So do hit that subscribe button and do comment below as well. Leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. But we will see you again very, very soon for another in-depth analysis, and we will be back on your screens in the near future.